he starts saying, there goes one over there. So then I started thinking, oh, they're going to play a joke on me. They're going to try to scare me. All this is going through my head as my cousin's trying to fumble around with his camera. He starts running towards that bush. I'm looking at that bush while he's running towards it, and I see this hand start coming out. Like, look, almost like a baseball glove. The fingers were all fat and thick, like a baseball glove, and it started reaching towards this tree. And the hair that was coming off of it was like probably about 3 to 4 inches long, but the arm was thick. I could see that the hair was shiny, and the way that the sun was kind of glaring off of it, it was all in slow motion. And then I'm like slowly following the arm with my eyes before I even can realize what's going on. It starts to stand up, and it's like hunched over. It just like went down on all fours and took off through the bushes, but it didn't make one sound, no noise. As big as it was and as fast as it moved, it would have sounded like a missile going through the woods, but I didn't hear anything.
I'd like to welcome to Bigfoot Crossroads, Mr. Felipe Mendoza. What is up, man? Do you prefer Felipe or Mendoza or Big Dog?
Big Dog is kind of like mostly people know me by that. Only the cops and lawyers and stuff like that know me by Felipe Mendoza.
I was just going to say, man, you were talking about, you've been listening to me for a long time, but man, I've been knowing about you for a minute too. You've been around this for a while now, haven't you?
Yeah, I think I had my first sighting in 2012, but I've always been interested in the subject. But I didn't even really know anything too much about Facebook. I knew a lot about MySpace, but they didn't have any Bigfoot groups on MySpace. So when I finally made the switch, that's when all of a sudden I got into all the Bigfoot groups and everything, and that's how I got to meet a lot of people, and then it's just been crazy ever since.
I got to ask you out the gate, man. So what relation are you to Lupe Mendoza?
That is my cousin.
Your cousin?
Yes.
I remember him from a long time ago, too.
Yeah, he's the one that kind of responsible for what happened to me.
Oh, for real? Well, do you mind telling the story? I'm sure you've told it before, but I'd love to hear it.
Oh, no problem. So what happened was, so I got on Facebook and I started, friending people, and our friend Lupe, he's a cousin that I never met in person or whatever. I just, how you got relatives you don't ever really talk to or, around or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was going through his pictures, and I was like, dang, pretty cool. He was in the military. A lot of my family's in the military. I never joined because I don't like getting up early. But he had a picture of him kneeling next to a footprint, and I immediately texted him. I was like, yo, is that a Bigfoot print? And I think I commented on it or something, and then he immediately messaged me. He's like, hey, bro, yeah, I saw that out in Washington and all this stuff. I was like, man, that's pretty crazy, man. That's cool. So they're real. I just, because the only stuff that I seen was either on TV or whatever, and I didn't think that they existed like for real. Or if I just thought maybe mostly they were in California like everyone else does at first from Texas. They're like, oh, them things ain't out here in Texas. It's too hot.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, I know some people, the Garretts. He said he was going to go out with them, and they were going to change out batteries and SD cards on a bunch of those trail cams that they had out there. And he asked me if I'd like to go, and I was like, yeah. So I'd never been out in the woods since, my pappy passed away when I was 12 years old, and I was like, way older. So I'm like, yeah, I'll go. So I didn't know what to wear or what to, any of that stuff. So I went to Army surplus store being a tactical nerd. bought me all this black tactical gear.
Got fitted up.
Yeah, they fixed me all up with some really expensive Converse boots and some expensive tactical pants and some like shirts. They said that you can wear these and sweat and they'll absorb your sweat and all this stuff. But it was a horrible idea to get dressed up like that because the Texas sun, I'm sure the sun in general, but man, it basically baked my ass.
Yeah, it gets hot down there, man.
Yeah, I mean, it smelled like, I was like, man, y'all smell fajitas? And nobody was like, what fajitas? What are you talking about? I was like, oh, it's me. I'm cooking. But so we get out there and, I have my CHL. So I was like, I'm going to carry my 45 with me. And then I was like, you know what? I'm feeling froggy. I'm going to carry the other one. So I was carrying one on each hip, trying to be super, I had to look the part,
Right.
I got, I'm all tactical already. And I had no idea what I was doing out there. Just right out of the door, I had no idea what I was doing out there. And, when I get out of the car, everybody's like, are you serious? I'm sure they thought that. So like, what are we fixing to do? Go to war with Bigfoot or whatever? So we get to walking around. We met up with Brandon Garrett. I don't know if you guys know who he is. We met up with him, and so we follow him out and we pull over in this like woodsy area and everything, and we start to walk around, and I'm just kind of checking the place out. I never, this is the first time I've been out in the woods since, my dad took me camping when I was younger. We got to walking around and it was hot. I remember it was hot that day. And then I think we were in there probably for about maybe 2 hours, maybe. And then we found a print and I was like, yo, that is cool. A Bigfoot print, You couldn't really tell because I don't know if you're familiar with the Texas woods. There's like pine needles everywhere. But there was definitely something there that kind of made me scratch my head like, oh man, it could be something, And we're getting to walk around and man, that sun is just just crushing. Even though I'm in the shade, in the woods, the humidity and everything is just crazy, it's just hot. And we're walking around and then my cousin Lupe, he starts saying, there goes one over there. And he's pointing in a direction. And see, you got to understand, I don't really know anybody that I'm with. I don't know Brandon. I don't know my cousin Lupe. I don't know, we had some other people with us. I didn't know anybody. So then I started thinking, oh, they're going to play a joke on me. They're going to try to scare me or something, because I'm the new guy. Here I am all like city folk. I don't know what I'm doing out here. They're all walking like they're a freaking SEAL team and, they all know each other's vibe, and here I am, the new guy, and I'm like, they're gonna try to freak me out. And I was like, but why would they do that when they know that I'm heavily armed or whatever? I'd probably be the last guy you want to scare. This is going through my head as my cousin's trying to fumble around with his camera because my cousin wants to take a picture of it, and so he gets frustrated, right? And he starts running towards that bush where he was pointing at, and as he's doing that, I'm looking at that bush while he's running towards it, and I see this hand start coming out, like a big, look almost like a baseball glove with, like when you tear all the threads out and you make it where the fingers and everything can move.
Yeah.
I mean, the fingers were all fat and thick, like a baseball glove, and it started reaching towards out of the bush to this tree. And the hair that was coming off of it was like probably about 3 to 4 inches long, coming off of the arm. But the arm was thick, like pretty muscular. And then I could see that the hair was shiny, like really clean. And the way that the sun was kind of glaring off of it. And I was looking, it was all in slow motion, man. It was like the Oz effect, where I'm like, holy crap, well, that is a big old arm. And then I'm like slowly following the arm with my eyes, like I said, everything's happening in the slow motion. And then it starts to stand up, right? But I just like before I even can realize what's going on, kind of stands up with its back turned towards me, and it's like hunched over, and then it just like went down on all fours and took off through the bushes, and then you just see like the branches and everything just like move real slow, like they just moved like the wind just blew them, like just
Yeah.
if that makes any sense, like something just ran, but it didn't make one sound, no noise. As big as it was and as fast as it moved, it would have sounded like a missile going through the woods, but I didn't hear anything. That's why I didn't think it was real. I was like, okay, so this is what they call projected thought. My cousin said there's one right there, and my brain filled in the blank. I didn't see what I think I saw. I said, there's only one way to really find out. I'm going to ask him what color it was. And that's, if he says any color other than black, because what I saw was black. If he says brown or red or pink or purple, or any color but black, please don't say black. And so he comes over and he's like, what's up, cuz? You good? And I was just like, what color was it? And he goes, oh, it was black. Oh my God, dude. I just like, my heart just like froze, dude. I just stopped because when I saw it get up and move, remember I told you I had 245s on each side, and I've been in bar fights and blah, I wasn't scared of nothing before. Man, when I saw that thing turn around and take off, I knew I had nothing for that guy. Nothing. I mean, I've been in like bar fights or whatever and just being like, yo, I don't care. I'm just gonna do what I can do. You're gonna go limping back. I don't care. I was never really afraid of anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just was so scared. I didn't even think. People were like, why didn't you shoot it? You had these two guns or whatever. Man, the last thing I thought about was those two guns when I saw it. It was just, it was just crazy. You're just seeing something that you're into, but it's real.
And this is your first time out in the woods.
First time out in the woods. I've never been out messing with this stuff. I just kind of see stuff on TV or whatever, and oh my God, dude, I froze. I didn't want to move. I couldn't really move from where I was standing at. I was, my cousin was talking to me about it, and he's like telling me what he saw. What he saw was we were kind of like talking and everything. Everybody's making a lot of noise, so whatever it saw us or heard us coming, and I think it was just looking around, and then when it saw my cousin see him, it was standing up behind the bush, and then it ducked straight down, and that's what he was trying to take a picture, and then he was going to run over to it. And I was like, yo, if they're trying to scare me if that's one of their friends, that's the biggest mofo that I've seen in them. I mean, I've got nothing for this guy.
How big would you say it was?
Just way bigger than me. I'd say I've stood next to Shaquille O'Neal. I've met him before, worked on his cars, and yeah, he was about that size.
Damn.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how he is, but like I said, I just felt like he would just throw me around like a rag doll and have zero stress about it. And like I said, I was just so freaking scared I couldn't even move for a little while. It took me like a little while to snap out of it. And then they're like, all right, we need to move. And I'm like, no, that thing is in there. I want to get out of here. I don't want to be in here no more. I want to go home.
So you were done.
I was done. I was ready to go home. And they're like, yo, dude, we're like in the middle of, we can't really go back. And there's like a camera not too far. They had to do some persuasion, talk me into, we're almost there, don't worry about it, we're gonna be all right, it's cool.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right. So I gathered myself together, and meanwhile Brandon's showing me crazy pictures on his phone of Bigfoot and stuff, and I'm like, yo, I don't want to see that right now, bro. I don't want to see anything right now. He's like, oh, my bad, I'm sorry. It's like, before I was all chest poking out and trying to be Billy Badass, but after that, man, I was done. I was ready to go home. It was just crazy. I've never been so freaked out in my life. And so they talked me into walking, and we keep going, and we go into one of those openings, kind of like what do they call it, like where the power lines go through when it's all cleared out.
Yeah.
We start walking through one of those areas, which is fine and dandy and all, but the sun, I am not in the shade no more. So that sun is in there just sizzling, boy. I'm just cooking. And we finally make it to the other camera, which was at the end of this power line opening, and there was like a creek. And so it teed off, and we walked off to, we walked off to the right. We walked in a good little while, and then they found the camera, and I'm just flipping around, dude. I'm just paranoid. They're all kind of laughing at me because I'm just like, my head is on a swivel. I'm just looking this way, looking that way. I was just freaking out, dude.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, we got everything we need. We're going to go back. And I was like, okay, let's go. So we start walking back through that power line opening. And they start leaving me behind because with a name like Big Dog, you can tell I'm probably not healthy. I probably don't do, very much in shape where I can run or walk or anything. I don't have the body for Bigfooting.
Hey, me either, man. I get it.
All right, I don't feel so bad. You made me feel a little better. Feel a little better now. So yeah, all these guys are from the ex-military or Brandon wasn't, but he was in pretty good shape. He walks around in the woods all day, every day, pretty much. And so they're leaving me behind. And I'm still trying to process, what did I see? What did I see? And as I'm thinking about all that stuff, I start hearing to my left side, I start hearing crunch, crunch, crunch. And I'm like, because, I forgot to mention that it was so hot that I took one of my T-shirts off, black T-shirt, soaked it in water and threw it over my head, right? Trying to cool down.
Yeah.
And so my ears are covered and my peripherals covered. I don't have peripheral vision no more. And as I'm walking, I'm sitting there, just like I said, I'm trying to think about, damn, that was crazy. Things are real. I want to, I don't want to be in here. I want to get out of here. And then crunch, crunch, crunch. And I was like, okay. There's everybody that I came here with is walking in front of me. And somebody is walking to my left side. And I said, oh, what's that Bigfoot I saw? So then I stopped walking, and then I start looking to the left, and I don't see nothing. I'm kind of scared though. I'm like really tripping out. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm just imagining this. So I get to start walking again, and then a couple of seconds later, you can hear it start walking on my left side. And I stop, and it takes maybe one or two more steps. I kept doing this for a couple of times, and then I was like, yo, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. So I start walking as fast. I started doing like that mall lady walk.
Yeah.
When the mall, they start walking real fast.
Power walking.
I started power walking, man. I was getting it, man. All this energy all of a sudden came in, and I started moving. And then they would turn around and look at me once in a while. They saw that I had my face was different. I looked worried. So they're like, oh, okay. And then, they do the like little hand sign to stop, and they all stop and they wait on me. And I was like, yo, something's walking on the side of me. And then that's when Brandon's like, oh yeah, they do that. They pace you or whatever. And I was like, okay, man, I need to know everything that you know about Bigfoot right now, because I don't want any more surprises. I don't want to hear anymore. This is what they do, blah, blah, blah. I need to know everything about Bigfoot right now. And they just kind of start, giggling at each other. And they're like, all right, check it out. We're going to let you just sit here and wait. We're going to walk towards if you keep walking down this opening, you'll run into a main road. When they hit the main road, you're going to go get the cars and come back. So I was just going to chill for a little while, just cool down and, have some water and take off my brand new army boots that you should never wear army boots that are brand new and go walk around in the woods until they're broken. I learned that. I sat there with one of my other cousins. We just started talking. He was telling me some crazy stories about his Bigfoot encounter. And that's kind of what got his dad Lupe involved. Because he finally went and saw one. And then as we're talking, he's telling me this creepy stuff. And I'm thinking, oh my God, dude, you too? You've had experiences with these things? And then all of a sudden we start hearing like a whistle coming from, or some kind of sound coming from the right side from behind us now, because I was facing the left side in case they tried to walk up on us or whatever. And when he heard that, he jumped up like he knew what it was. And I was like, oh, okay, what's going on? What's going on? And he's like, let's move. And I was like, oh, okay. So I started putting on my boots back on like real fast. I'm like, yeah, I feel fine. Let's go. I feel like I can move. So we start walking out of there. He's like, he's not calm anymore. He's from his demeanor, he's nervous and he's bothered right now, And I'm like, oh, okay, something's not right. Something's wrong. And we start walking, and then all of a sudden on the left and right, you start hearing footsteps on both sides now. And it was like we were being escorted out, and we just walked and walked, and you could just hear them like kind of moving branches around. The leaves were dry and everything. You could hear them just, oh man, it was so crazy. And then finally, I noticed that they were starting to back off, right? And when what it was is we were getting closer to the main road, and when we got closer to the main road, they seemed to back off. And then finally we made it to that road, and man, I walked over there and I gave that road a big old kiss because they were gone. I was like, oh my God, bro, I can't handle this no more. First I seen one, and now they're following us out of the woods. I'm done with this subject. I ain't doing this no more.
That is a crazy first trip into the woods. I mean, that's just nuts, man. Everything about it, like, especially like knowing like the area, knowing who you were out there with and the kind of things that like, they've talked about encountering and stuff. And then like you have a sighting, you get escorted out. That's baptism, bro.
Wow, yeah, by fire, man. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So they tell me they check out these cameras every month or so, check the batteries and the SD cards. And I'm like, yo, I'm never going back out there again. And I text my little sister and I'm like, these things are real. I seen one, I'm freaking out. And for a while it was so crazy because I would just talk about it all the time. Like it took over who I was. I mean, I was having nightmares. I couldn't talk to people. Like I talked about it all the time, but I figured out after a while, I can't talk to nobody about it because people were making like ridiculing me and saying, "Oh, you never saw this. You're crazy. You're always saying dumb stuff, and just you're lying, or you're crazy. There's no way the things are not real. You're just being weird or whatever." And I mean, it would get to the point where we go to a restaurant. I take my little sister with me to a restaurant, and then they'll say, "Hey, can I take your order?" I'll be like, "I saw a Bigfoot." Yeah, my little sister just like, "Oh, damn, here we go." And then the girl's like, "Oh, that's great. Would you like fries or anything with that?" Yeah, so it was pretty much just, and then I just felt like all alone. Like I can't talk to anybody about it no more because everybody's kind of pushing me up. And I was like, damn. And then I started. They asked me if I wanted to go back out there and change the SD cards and the batteries, and I was like, yeah, I'll go with you guys. And then I hung up the phone, and I'm like, what the hell? What did you say you were gonna go? You said you were gonna. And I was like hooked. I went and started buying a bunch of video cameras, HD cameras,
Yeah.
orders. I mean, I wanted to, I don't know, I just wanted to prove it and stuff. And I went out with any and everybody who was going out looking for Bigfoot, and it's been like that pretty much ever since. There's been a lot of close calls. There's been, it even got to where there was times I went out by myself because I bought me a big old truck I called it the Yeti, and I had it lifted and fixed up for off-road and everything. And it's got a big giant tent on top of it where you fold it out and you can sleep up there. And yeah, I would sometimes just go out there and meet up with people, or I would go by myself, just the stress from work and everything. And it's just want to get out there and go, camp out by yourself. Cause I started to like love the woods and stuff. I'm like, man, this is what I've been missing. I haven't really gone camping or done anything since the old man's passed, and I was hooked again.
So, like in more than one way, it completely changed your life.
Yeah, I would say definitely. I mean, I met my wife through the subject. She had an encounter herself, and we knew. I don't know if you know Brenda Harris.
Yeah, of course. I've known Brenda for a long time. Love Brenda.
She's good people. So she invited Brandon to go to a conference that she was having. Brandon's not a good public speaker. He's good. He's good at a lot of stuff. He's good in the woods. I give him that. He knows what plants you can eat, what plants you can't eat, what'll kill you, what is good for you, what is bad for you. All that stuff. He's an encyclopedia when you go out there. And so he's up there talking, and he's kind of he mumbles when he's nervous. And then Brenda's like, "You got to go up there and help him." I'm like, "Me? I don't know about this." And I grabbed the mic, and you couldn't get me to shut up. I'm like, I'm not very shy like he is, though. I basically took over the conference and everything. And I've gone out bigfooting with her, and my wife actually was one of the people that was at the conference. One of the people to come check it out and everything. And that's when she saw me, and she was like, "Hey, look at that big boy."
Got like hearts for eyes and stuff, and
yeah. And so yeah, that's how we met, and through that conference. But I've gone out with her looking for Bigfoot, and I got a funny story about when we went out there. I don't know if you've been out to New Mexico, but at night it gets freaking cold. It's not like during the day. During the day, you can walk around t-shirt and shorts, but at night you can't do that. You gotta have a jacket on. You gotta have some pants on. It's winter at night. So we went to this one spot. We were walking around. There's like a stream, and they say they like to throw rocks into the river. And we went to one spot, and there was really nothing going on. So we went to another spot, and all of a sudden we started hearing like splashing and all this stuff. And I was like, "Oh my God." And she's like, go throw a big rock in the water. So I grabbed one that I could, decent size, and I chunked it in there. Just back when I was young and muscular. And I was able to chunk one in there, pretty good size, and a splash. And then, a couple of minutes later, you hear a splash back, and I was like, "Oh my God, there's something here. Definitely something walking around." We're just sitting there, and I'm getting the hair standing on the back of my neck. I'm like, "Oh my God, this is gonna be crazy!" And all of a sudden, she had a night vision, and she's like, "Oh, I see it. Its head's sticking out of the water." And I grab her night vision, they're still wrapped around her neck, and I start looking. She's like, "Oh," and I see it. I see what she's talking about, and I'm like, "Oh man, that does look like something right there." So I'm like, "Everybody light it up." Everybody had these crazy lights. You know how Bigfooters are. We get
the bigger the better,
the brightest lights ever.
Yeah.
So we light it up. And all you see something like, it looks like a head, and you see like an eye start to turn real slowly, and then it turns all the way around. It's a giant beaver. Yeah, and I was like, "Oh man, it was just a giant beaver. Oh, this sucks. I'm ready to go home or whatever." And she goes, "No, I know another spot we can go to." I was like, "All right, let's go." Because in the morning we were driving back to Houston from New Mexico, so we went to this other spot. And by this time, it's freaking cold. I'm already starting to complain. I'm not happy. I want to go to bed. It's 2:00 in the morning. It's freaking 30 degrees. And I mean, I'm freezing. I'm sitting in the back of this truck. Every now and then they throw a rock into the water. And I was like, this is so dumb. I need to be resting up for this long trip. And about the third big rock that they threw in, they kind of step away from the river and just kind of sit there and wait. And all of a sudden, across the river, I start hearing these rocks. This one rock flying through the trees. You know how you can hear it hitting all the branches?
Yeah.
And it comes and splashes right in the middle of the river. And I was like, yo, what the heck? Who threw that? Who threw that? And everybody's like, not me. That came from the other side. I go, light it up, light it up. Bro, there was like 3 or 4 of them sitting on the other side. One of them like ducked straight down. One went off to the side. One turned its head and walked off. And then there was one that was just looking right at us like, oh. Like he didn't turn. He just kept staring at us. And I was like, time to go. Yeah, I mean, they're like, isn't this why we came out here? I was like, yeah, but I ain't trying to get beat up by no big. I mean, I'm already freaking out again because that was so freaky the way it just came from the other side of the river. And then this one was just not even scared of us. It was just staring at us. And then so we all just loaded up and drove off.
Now, was that just by chance, was that the river by Brenda's place?
It was close to it, yeah.
Because, I mean, like, they have all kinds of crazy stuff happen at that river.
Yeah, and then she has a lot of crazy stuff going on her property.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever looked at her YouTube videos. She's got, like, spirit stuff and Bigfoot stuff. It's like all kind of crazy stuff. It's so crazy that when I slept on the property, I was sleeping in my truck. I was sleeping with one eye open because I was just thinking, man, I don't know what's going to be out here. What's going to be walking around here, looking through my window in my truck. I was just freaking out. I was freaking myself out. You know how your imagination
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then because we hung out with her for a while, and when we were inside eating, she made us some dinner. And you can hear the dogs barking, and she's like, "Oh yeah, they're far away. They're barking at squatches. I can tell by a certain bark that they do." Oh, okay. And then all of a sudden the dogs get quiet, and she goes, "Oh, they're right here. They're real close to us. The dogs know when to be quiet." I was like, "Really?" She's like, "Yeah." So I said, "Man, I'm going outside. I'm start walking around the property," and yeah, I didn't see anything or hear nothing, but the dogs were acting weird. But yeah, all those crazy stories that she was telling us out there. I was like, yeah, I don't want to sleep in here.
So, is your wife from New Mexico?
Yeah, she's from New Mexico.
Is that where she had her encounter?
Yeah, she was washing dishes, and she looked up through the window in the kitchen, and she saw one just like staring at her, and she thought it was a person or something, and she started running right after it. And I was like, yo, you ran after it? You sound like my cousin. I guess some people are not scared of him.
I was just talking to somebody about how often you hear reports of them looking through windows, but specifically kitchen windows. Why do they look through so many kitchen windows, man?
I would tell you why I would. I'd be looking for something to eat.
Yeah, I was talking about how, like, we used to have, like, a trailer up at the lake, and we used to go to it all the time, and there was, like, a vent for the stove, like a vent fan in the wall right next to the kitchen window that would blow the smoke and everything out of the kitchen on the side. And
right.
I'm wondering if they're, like, attracted to the smell of food or something around the window.
Oh, I'm pretty sure.
So have you had any more sightings or encounters since you've been going out?
There was one I had a weird sighting in New Mexico when I was there at Brenda's. I don't even know what to make of it. So it sounds stupid, but I saw something running up a mesa in the corner of my eye, and the arms, they didn't make sense in my head. They looked like Sonic the Hedgehog when he's doing that little spin thing, and he's like gravel and stuff was going up.
Yeah.
And then an hour later, so I saw some people with binoculars looking in that direction, and I was like, "What are y'all looking at?" And they were like, oh, something ran up that mesa an hour earlier. And when I was looking at it, you could see where something had disturbed the ground. You know how the ground is all kind of like that ashy, powdery color, and then when something moves it around, it's all looks like a darker color.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it looked like something ran up, and it was using its arms and everything to pull itself up. And I was like, yo, that's crazy. I saw something earlier run through there. This was a time when I was kind of like the MC for one of Brenda's conferences.
Mm-hmm.
So I was tired. That's probably why I didn't really like lock in on it. And yeah, that was the weird one. And then the other stuff that I've experienced was either just noises or them being around. There was a time when I went out with the Garretts. It was just us by ourselves, and we went back to this one hunting spot that's only open at certain times of the year. And we were sitting on top of my truck, and all of a sudden you could hear something walking around, and you could smell it. And you could hear it start ripping branches off of the trees. And we just kind of sat there, kind of like playing chicken, because what they would tell me is if you just sit out long enough and just sit still, they'll try to scare you off, I guess. And if it doesn't work, then they'll just come and stand out and like show themselves like, what's your problem, bro? We're trying to scare you off. You know what I mean? Kind of like ignoring them, where they'll just come out and look at you. And so we call that Bigfoot chicken. A lot of times they won because I take off. They get a little too scary for me, but you know, I've been out there in the Sam Houston, and you can sometimes hear them talking. That's weird, like murmuring. My wife was with me one time where it was just me and her, and we were just sitting there quiet, and you just hear, like, what? That's so weird, yeah. And we've gone up to Arizona, up in the mountains, and it sounded like they were ripping trees, knocking trees over, and we were seeing crazy lights out there. Then I've seen lights out here in Houston. I mean, out in Sam Houston. 2 of those orbs that everybody talks about.
Oh, you've seen orbs?
Yeah, I've seen those. Probably maybe a year after my Bigfoot sighting. So that was like 2013-ish. They were telling me about it. They're like, yo, man, there's some weird ass lights in the woods. I'm like, okay. Well, they sure it's just not people walking around or lightning bugs. And they're like, no, it's not. I was like, all right, I'm going to come down this weekend and we'll check it out. Well, dang, they took me to this spot. And sure enough, I started running after the lights, right? Because I was like, yo, that's got to be somebody farting around. There's no way that that's anything other than somebody messing with us. So me and Brandon, this is back when I could run, we started chasing after this one light. We had 2 other people with us. And we ended up going faster than they could. Well, you know, Bob couldn't keep up with us, so his other son stayed with him. And me and Brandon were the ones chasing them. And it just felt like right when you were about to figure out what it was, like pull the mask on Scooby-Doo when they...
Yeah.
Mr. Thompson, it's you. Yeah, when that was about to happen, it would disappear and reappear somewhere else. And I was like, okay, this is not right. I got like this gut feeling like, yo, I need to stop. So I turned around and I couldn't see Bob and Travis. I couldn't see them anywhere. And I was like, yo, and there was lights all around us everywhere. And I was like, yo, how do we get back? You know, what direction are we supposed to be going in now? It was confusing, you know, because it was all around us. What happened was his mom was staying in camp. And as we left, she was getting growled at. So she was like, nah, I'm going over with the boys. So she drove the truck to the end of the road where we were at. And I said, call your mom. And he called her. So she started flashing her headlights. And when she flashed the headlights, that's how we figured out which direction to go to. And I was like, yo, this is so freaking weird. And I told Lupe about it. And he was like, you guys, they're always farting around, saying stuff. And,
He wasn't having it?
no, he was like, y'all, I don't, that's weird. I mean, what kind of mess is that, And so, he's ex-military, so he used to, walk around in the jungles and stuff. So he knows his way around the woods. So he starts doing this thing where every couple steps he takes, he pulls a bead down. I don't know. He tried to explain it to me. It's a military thing or something like that.
Right.
So every couple steps, he'll pull a bead down, and that's how he figures out how far away stuff is. And when he did that, he did the stuff with the maps and everything, and he did that at night. So when he saw the lights at night, he like measured how far away they were, and then he was going to walk around in the morning and see what he could find. So he did that. He said he didn't find anything where the lights were.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, so he's like, okay, I don't know what's going on with these lights.
Like, what did they look like? Like, what color and size and everything?
So they look kind of like candlelight, like that orangey color, or orangey white, or whatever, kind of like a candle. Best way to describe it.
Huh?
Yellowy, orange.
Yeah.
And so, they were different sizes. I couldn't tell if they were far away or close. Why are they different sizes? Are they all the same size and some of them are far away? I don't know.
So one of the things that I find really interesting about your story is so lights like that have been seen forever, and there's a lot of folklore about lights like that, especially a popular piece of folklore about them is the will-o-wisp.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of stories around those lights talk about those lights lead people into the woods and get them lost. And it almost sounds like that's exactly what happened to you.
Yes, I heard the same thing, because what I did was I was freaking out and I posted it. I went into these Bigfoot groups, and then I started getting messages saying, hey, dude, don't ever chase after those things again. That was dangerous. That was not a good idea. These things, some people were telling me they were spirits of the woods. Some people were, just saying all kinds of crazy, no, I won't say crazy, because they were just, people were trying to explain to me what they were.
Yeah.
My show that I do, I had a guy who does, he takes stories, and he was telling one about a person that he would go lock his fence at the property line, and when he did, his neighbor would see a light following him around, but he never saw the light.
Huh.
And then he took a picture, and then sure enough, there's a light around that guy when he's walking around. Well, that guy found he had an old tree in the property, and up inside the branches, it was like this big hole. So he would stick water, like a water hose down in there, trying to fill up this hole and everything, and it would never fill up. And then he just started throwing like big rocks and stuff, trying to, figure out what's going on in there. And that's when he finally got it all blocked up with the boulders, and he went to bed one night, and he went to sleep, and he heard the dogs barking or whatever, and he kind of turned around in his bed, and this little man smacked him right in the face. It was like a little what do they call those puck wedgies?
What?
Yeah, so the puck wedgie he thinks was living down in that tree, and that was following him around was that puck wedgie somehow was tied into the light.
Huh.
And the guy really didn't want to tell the story. My friend had to beg him and beg him and beg him and beg him, and he finally told the story. But and I think later, like the next couple of days, he went to go close the gate again, and he saw it again. He said it was like a little man with like kind of like spikes coming off of his back and everything. He said it was like 2 or 3 feet tall.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then his wife was like, heck, she was done with it. She didn't want him to do it, but he couldn't like get rid of the property or something like that, and he didn't have nowhere to, he couldn't afford to move or something, so he ended up staying. And his wife was like, "No, I'm out." She took off. She left him there.
Damn.
So I don't know if that's what I was seeing as buck wedgies or whatever, because I never heard of no stuff like that. So I started doing my show, and then, people were saying stuff like that.
I get it, being a Bigfoot researcher, witness, investigator, whatever. And like, I mean, you went through it yourself. Bigfooters don't want to talk about weird stuff like that. Not very often.
They don't.
Because I get it. I think, they want to be taken seriously, and they're afraid, if we start putting this other stuff out there, people are just going to roll their eyes like they always have been. And we want to be taken seriously. We want this to be seen as like an actual scientific endeavor. But I mean, the truth is, if you spend enough time out there, you experience weird things. You see weird things.
That's true.
Do you think there's any connection between like the lights you saw and Bigfoot? Do you think there's a connection between, the paranormal stuff and Bigfoot, or do you think they're just separate things that happen to be in the same areas?
I don't think they're all together, but I think they're all part of the same. We're not supposed to be seeing any of that stuff. That's not for us. I don't know. It's hard to explain that. It's on the outside of humanity. We're not supposed to experience or see none of that stuff. They're supposed to be separate from us. Mm-hmm. But somehow we're running into them. And, I don't know. I hate to get super religious, but I think a lot of that religion stuff in the Bible and all that. And this is after seeing what I saw, thinking to myself, what else is out there? If those are real, what else is real? And like you said, there's so many. I have a lot of friends that are hardcore Bigfoot people. But as soon as I start saying aliens, as soon as I start talking about lights, as soon as they shut me down, there's people that won't even talk to me anymore because of it. And, I'm just like, okay, that's fine. If that's how you feel, then we weren't never really friends then.
Yeah.
I've lost friends or acquaintances because of stuff that I'm starting to believe now. And then having my show talking about all kinds of stuff. It's not, I guess I'm getting woo, I guess. And a lot of my friends that I was cool with, and anybody who didn't believe in, they would call them woo or flute players or whatever. And
damn, I hadn't heard that one in a long time.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I couldn't, and I was with them, all the way for a while. And then after a while, hearing people's stories, I believe them. Who am I to say, oh, well, you're dumb. Only Bigfoot is real. I saw lights. I can't explain that. Because now, if I say that Bigfoot turns into an orb, then I lost half of everybody there. I don't know. Maybe the orbs is a separate thing. I don't know if it has anything to do with Bigfoot. It'd be like, a bird and a raccoon. They don't got nothing to do with each other, but they're in the same woods,
Yeah.
It could be something like that. Yeah, I don't know. And, I feel bad that people are just don't even want to talk about anything else but Bigfoot. And, sorry you feel that way, but it's all good. I got people that still love me. I don't need you.
Yeah. You do know a lot of Bigfooters. You are very well networked in the Bigfoot world. You've met a lot of people from different parts of the country.
Right.
So you know that whenever it comes to Bigfoot, the Pacific Northwest, whenever you hear like them talk about going out and having Bigfoot activity on outings and stuff, why do you think it's so more intense down here?
I think it's because it's hot. Bigfoot don't like it.
You think they're just pissed all the time?
Maybe or they just don't want. I mean, there's just because people are getting in the woods more and more. We're more like a pest to them. And so a lot of times, I guess back in the day, they would scare people off by making their noises or doing their thing, and people would run off. And now it's starting to get where we know about them, I guess, and people are trying to go out there and scream and holler and do all the Bigfoot stuff. And so I think they're trying to get more aggressive, if that makes sense, to scare us away.
I mean, I just hear like a lot of people, and don't get me wrong, the Pacific Northwest, British Columbia, all that, obviously like prime Sasquatch territory. That's, you know, a tremendous amount of history whenever it comes to Bigfoot in those areas.
Yeah.
But whenever I talk to like friends that are also researchers and stuff, where, you know, they've had an encounter where they'll be like, yeah, and we were out there for like 2 weeks and we heard, one night we heard rock clacking off in the distance. I'm like, okay, and then what? Like,
Yeah.
and they're like, yeah, that's it. And I'm like, oh, well, we had one come through camp and like rip a tent apart. Like, I don't know what are y'all doing, but down here it gets kind of scary.
Yeah, it does get a little intense, but I don't know. Like me, I'm not an experienced woods person, so when some crazy stuff happens, I don't know, freak out. And just like, oh damn, okay. But a lot of times when I go with people like my cousin or Brandon, they know, you know, the sounds that foxes makes or cougars or whatever. Like there was one time I was dead asleep and a cougar started making that crazy screaming noise that they do.
Yeah.
I jumped up. I was ready, you know. I'm like, oh, hell no. What is that noise? What is that noise? I was freaking out, and they're like laughing at me and they're like, chill, dude. It's just a cougar. I said, what? That doesn't make it any better.
Oh, something that will kill me.
Yeah, something that would eat me or whatever.
I remember one time I was hearing some crazy noises and I went off towards the sound and I ended up tracking it down and it was 2 gray foxes. Like straight up found them standing in the road making the sounds and I couldn't believe it. And that kind of, you know, I thought I was a pretty well-knowledged outdoorsman, especially whenever it came to animal sounds and stuff. And I had never heard anything like that before.
Well, I heard porcupines make crazy noises and beavers like to slap the water. I mean, once you start learning about all that natural noises and stuff,
mm-hmm.
start to feel better or whatever. About when you're out there, you're not getting freaked out every time you hear a noise. I've hung out with people like that, and I've gone Bigfooting with people that every single tree bend means something. And it took us hours just to get like 6 feet because they were explaining everything. I'm like, all right. You know, I don't want to be rude or, I mean, maybe they know something that I don't know. And, you know, just, I mean, I'm sure you experienced that too.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
But if they do say something like that, I usually just store it in the back of my mind. And then if I hear something or something similar, I'll be like, yo, I remember this dude was talking about that one time.
I mean, at this point, I don't really care about what people say or what their theories are. I care, you know, I'll listen to it and everything, but how I used to, if it didn't line up with my own, I get like upset about it or whatever and like want to challenge them, you know. But anymore, I'm just like, okay, that's fine. Like it doesn't matter if somebody doesn't agree with me. It doesn't matter if I don't agree with somebody else.
Right.
I don't understand why we're still arguing with one another about that kind of crap. It's kind of stupid to me.
Just try to be open-minded. If I don't agree with somebody, you know, just let it go. It's just better that way.
So have you been keeping up with any of the alien stuff?
I just saw that YouTube thing where that those people in Las Vegas had like an alien land out in the backyard or crash or in the back. Yeah, I always keep up. It pretty much anything that's crazy, I'm into. Yeah, angels, witches. You know, I mean, I'll listen from a distance. You know, I don't try to like really engage with the demon stuff. I try to stay away from it. But I will kind of perk my ear up and listen to see what they're saying.
It's just kind of crazy to see it like talked about on the news and like the government looking into it publicly and everything. And just, I mean, I know they've always done it, but now they're just like, yeah, we're looking into it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that could ever happen with Bigfoot?
I think eventually, yeah. And then I don't think people would care. Just kind of like the alien stuff. Like I mean, they're talking about it on the news and everything, but nobody's really freaking out. I think if they ever do find a Bigfoot and put it on the news and do an interview with them or whatever, everybody's going to be like, I knew it. My cousin's uncle's brother's sister knew one or had experience. And, you know, I don't think it'll be as big of a deal as everybody thinks it is, because I think the younger generation is more accepting than the older generation was. And so I'd say in a couple of years, they might even have Bigfoot news segments or something, where it's not they're making fun, like stuff now. Even if you watch stuff, people talking about those aliens on the news, that the recent stuff, they're always like, oh, I hope they don't come beat me up or probe me. Now, whether.
Yeah, you said something that I hadn't really thought about before, but like, I think you're right. I think this younger generation wasn't taught not to believe in things like we were back in the day, I think they are more accepting of stuff and just like, yeah, that's cool, man, whatever.
I like when we were coming up, getting ridiculed or go to bed. I remember, I don't know if you're into ghost stuff, but when I was younger, my grandma had passed away, and I was like, we were really close. And I was so upset about it and everything. And, I was just sitting there crying, and she used to always sit on the bed and rub my back when I was crying when she was around. And I was so upset about her death that somebody sat on the bed and started rubbing my back after she passed away. And I remember freaking out, calling my dad, 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 Dad. And he's like, what? And I was like, there's a ghost in my room. And he's just like, oh, this kid watches too many crazy movies or whatever. You can't watch any more scary movies. And he just didn't believe me. I know it happened. I don't know if, and I've heard some of your stuff. I know he's there with me.
Yeah, I am right there, especially the whole sitting on the bed thing, man. That's how this whole thing started for me, man. The whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same here. I mean, that was the first experience that I knew something wasn't normal.
My great grandma, I was actually raised by my great grandparents, which is crazy. Whenever I was born, there's like 5 generations alive at once, and that just doesn't happen anymore.
Oh, wow.
But I feel like my great grandma, she knew. I think she knew. And, she was, she could do some strange things sometimes. She would know things where there is no way she would know them. I don't know how she did it. But she didn't really talk about that stuff. She wasn't super religious, but she definitely, was a Christian, believed in God and everything.
Yeah.
And anytime, I remember whenever I was little, anytime I'd bring it up and I'd be like, Granny, there was something in my room last night. She had always just tell me, oh, that's just a guardian angel. That's just a guardian angel. Don't worry about it. Those are angels. They're looking out for you. Just don't be afraid of them.
You good.
Yeah. And it was almost like she knew and she was trying to comfort me, but at the same time, trying to pass it off as no big deal and not something to pursue. But of course I didn't. I, researched it all I could and,
right.
Started messing with stuff I shouldn't. And yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if there's bad spirits, there's gotta be good spirits.
Yeah. There's gotta be.
How many times where you should have been dead and you're not because, something saved you or something,
Too many times, man. Too many times.
And that's why it's hard for me to just believe in just one thing and just categories of, there's just so much stuff that's around us that, sometimes people don't pay attention. And, why do certain people see things and why don't other people see things? I mean, is it blood type? Is it religion? Is it DNA? What is it? Why is it only certain people see things or experience things and other people don't?
I mean, that's something I wonder about even whenever it comes to Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like earlier you were talking about hearing the talking. I've heard it once before, and I know other people that have heard it. I mean, at this point, I don't know. It's kind of controversial, but at this point, I'm pretty certain that Bigfoot, whatever it is, we would mostly understand it as a person. Not necessarily a human like us, but not an animal by any means. I mean, animals don't really talk to each other and do things that these things can do. But I wonder if, like, some of the situations, like, maybe some Bigfoot can do things that others can't.
Yeah.
You know, whenever you start talking about the woo and the paranormal. And then my buddy DJ from the Calling All Beings podcast, he reached out to me recently asking about, well, is it possible that some of this paranormal Bigfoot stuff that people talk about, like them cloaking and stuff, could those just be the ghosts of Bigfoot that have already passed on?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, why not? You know, that might explain some of it.
Well, everything has a spirit, so I don't see why not.
I mean, you definitely hear about, you know, spirits of like cats and dogs and stuff.
Yeah.
And other animals. So, I mean, why not Bigfoot?
Yeah, I got experiences with that too. I used to have a cat that I like really, really loved, and it got killed. And I used to, when I was in the bathroom, you know how cats go in the bathroom or animals go in the bathroom. They probably,
yeah.
And I used to, underneath the sink, there's a door, two doors where you can go in there and service it and store stuff. So I used to open it, and then she would go in there, and then I would close it while she was in there, and she would just paw at the door and make a certain kind of noise.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, so she ended up passing away, and I was just sitting in my room, and I was like just really sad about her, you know. I was like, oh man, I can't believe my cat is gone. And then all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom. And I was like, what? The door started moving in the bathroom, and I was like, there's no way. And it never did it since, but I don't know if she was just saying, don't worry about me, I'm good, or, I don't know what that was about, or just trying to comfort me, or.
Yeah, we had a dog that we had to put down right after we did that. It was probably about a week later. Me and my wife were sitting in the living room, and we heard him bark down the hallway.
Ooh.
And we both just like looked at each other like, what the hell?
That's crazy, man.
You know, I'm just like looking at her like with that crazy look on my face. Did you just hear that? And she goes, was that Kimba? And I was like, we only got one other dog and she's laying right there asleep. I mean, I don't know what it was, but it certainly sounded like him.
The other dog didn't wake up and react to it? Or?
No. I thought that was kind of weird too.
Yeah.
But she's older and half deaf, so who knows? But
okay.
Yeah. But yeah, man, crazy stuff for sure.
Yeah, see, and that's why it's just hard for me to just believe in one thing, categorize everything in one thing. I can't. It's just too many strange things, and the stories that people tell you, and I don't know. It's just be dumb to just think it's just us and that's it.
Yeah, I think the moral of the story is we shouldn't be closed-minded to anything at this point and keep all doors open.
Yeah.
Well, all right, man. I appreciate you coming on and talking to me. I look forward to coming on your show. That's the Big Dog Random Show. Is that what you call it?
A Big Dog Random Show, yeah. It's on Spotify, so listen to it, y'all.
Check it out. And if you've encountered something you can't explain, shoot me an email at bigfootcrossroads@gmail.com. And check out the website, bigfootcrossroads.com, where you can find links to the social media, merchandise, a contact form, everything you need, all in one place, including past episodes. Be sure to subscribe to YouTube if you haven't done so already. Leave a comment, leave a 5-star rating if you can. And until next time, remember, there's something in the woods.